Introduction to the Cataclysm Era of Swallowing the Starry Sky. Lin Ye travels through the swallowing starry sky and arrives at a high martial world full of disaster and blood. In this world, crises abound. The spreading mutated virus, lurking ferocious monsters, could break through the defense line at any time and slaughter all humanity. In this crazy and dangerous world, only strength is the foundation for survival. Lin Ye relies on. Chapter 1. Catastrophic Era. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Night. Dark as ink. The moonlight is bright and pure, falling down on the earth like a trained horse. Boom boom. On the wasteland shrouded in sparkling moonlight, a 15-meter-long black python was heavily smashed, covered in terrifying scars and on the brink of death. A few meters in a circle were stained with its blood and turned a bloody red. Under the night sky, a young man wearing a black combat suit and carrying a narrow knife box was quickly approaching the python. His body is agile, like a mountain ghost in the night. Lin Ye crouched down, his sharp sword piercing through the once indestructible head of the python, completely destroying its vitality. At the same time, a cold electronic synthesizer suddenly rang out in Lin Ye's mind: kill one advanced beast soldier and obtain 5 attribute points. Upon hearing the familiar electronic sound, a smile appeared on Lin Ye's lips and he ordered in his mind, "System, add all 5 attribute points to my power." The sound fell, and a tingling sensation like an electric current flowed through the whole body, very comfortable. At the same time, a trace of strength quickly accumulated and became abundant in Lin Ye's body. 10 seconds later, the comfort of the increased strength dissipated. Lin Ye lowered her head and looked at her whole body, feeling a slight increase in strength. He moved his body a little and made a slight popping sound at his joints. Then, Lin Ye's left arm hanging on his side suddenly smashed forward. With a punch, the left arm flickered like a black light. Hoo! The strong wind howled, creating a strong sense of oppression. Lin Ye's fist stopped in mid-air, and the smile on his lips grew stronger. It's not in vain that I put so much effort into killing this high-level beast soldier. The harvest is really good. Withdrawing his arm, Lin Ye called out to the system in his mind, "Open my information interface." Name: Lin Ye, attribute point 0, body method. Advanced level, proficiency 55 out of 100, power 80, plus 5, speed 75, response 75, spirit 75. The average value for adult male humans is 1. Looking back from the information interface, Lin Ye's mouth slightly tugged. At this level, there is still a lot of room for beginner generals. Lin Ye whispered softly, his heart clear. As his strength increases, the attribute points obtained by killing monsters of the same level also decrease. Don't be fooled by the fact that this advanced beast soldier provides 5 attributes, the next one may only have 4. At least 30 advanced beast soldiers need to be killed in order to reach the physical fitness threshold of a junior general. After speaking, Lin Ye's cold and calm eyes swept over his right arm. On the arms there is a level symbol exclusive to warriors. Advanced warrior, strive to replace you with a warrior level 1 within this year, Lin Ye muttered to herself, with a hint of flames rising in her eyes. Woo 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 woo. The scorching night breeze swept through the wilderness, and in the distance, there were faint roars of monsters. On the wilderness, Lin Ye stood beside the small mountain-like python corpse. To prevent being attacked by other monsters, it's better to dissect this python first. After speaking, he drew a dagger from the leggings of his combat suit and quickly dissected the body of the black-scaled python. Puzzle. Wow! The simple and unadorned sound of cutting was dull and rapid, accompanied by a pungent stench. Lin Ye was not moved by it at all, and he was already familiar with such things. Quickly, the black-scaled python was dismembered into 8 pieces by Lin Ye, leaving only a pile of flesh and blood on its massive body. All valuable parts were collected by Lin Ye in his backpack. Snake eyes, snake bile, snake venom, snake teeth. Even he didn't let go of the snake whip. Carrying a slightly heavy backpack, Lin Ye gazed into the distance with a pair of cold and piercing eyes, somewhat lost in thought. Today is September 16, 2016. In a blink of an eye, he had been in this world for a year now. Similarly, a year has passed since the great cataclysm struck this world. Throughout this year, humans and monsters have engaged in countless large-scale wars. As war continues, humanity retreats step by step, losing both humans and land, and being at an absolute disadvantage. Blood, darkness, madness, turmoil, despair. Various emotions are rapidly breeding and sweeping through the world like a storm. The once proud hot weapon has also suffered repeated setbacks when facing high-level monsters, even pushing the monster's mutation to a new height, giving birth to even more ferocious monsters. Large cities have fallen one after another, turning into human paradise and breeding grounds for monsters. One island after another, isolated countries were struggling desperately, ultimately leading to their desperate downfall. One after another, human civilization was trampled underfoot by monsters, wreaking havoc and trampling on. In the year of large-scale battles between humans and monsters, the world landscape has also undergone earth-shattering changes. Fortunately, there is no such thing as a never-ending path. While monsters mutate, humans are also evolving. The group of warriors rose up in such a chaotic situation. With each bloody battle, it was able to stabilize the war situation between humans and monsters. Nevertheless, the current situation of humanity is not optimistic. Outside shelters and fortresses. Various ferocious and terrifying monsters are ready to break through the defense line and slaughter all humanity at any time. Human beings can only continuously enhance their strength and struggle to support it. In this world plagued by monsters and crises, only strength is the foundation for the continuation of the race. Therefore, the status of warriors is very high in human society. And Lin Ye, on the other hand, relied on the golden fingers that crossed over, through life and death battles with monsters one after another. He gradually grew from an ordinary earth youth to one of the many advanced warriors in the mountain city. In this world where monsters are rampant and humans are in danger, having no strength is equivalent to a dead end. Thinking of the parents and relatives who died tragically in the beast tide, Lin Ye's face showed a hint of helplessness and frustration, and she unconsciously closed her eyes. September. It should have been the season when dew turned into frost. But this autumn in the mountain city is particularly hot. As if summer has not left yet. Even the night breeze, mixed with a hint of dryness and heat, slapped Lin Ye's face head on. Some past events cannot help but come to mind. Since the outbreak of viruses and disasters, Lin Ye has seen too many humans who died tragically in herds. In such a catastrophic era, having no strength is equivalent to losing everything. In a moment, Lin Ye slowly opened his eyes, and a hint of brilliance flickered in his eyes. So, finding a way to improve his own strength at Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com is the way. I don't know when this big disaster will end. Lin Ye looked up at the heavy night sky and took a long breath. Mr. Lin Ye, traces of a group of pig monsters have been found outside the canyon southwest of Shelter 0457. 2 of them are suspected to be high-level beast soldiers, and our soldiers cannot resist them. Please go and solve them. A prompt from the command center suddenly sounded in the earphone, interrupting Lin Ye's contemplation. In the current catastrophe, the war between humans and monsters has become increasingly fierce, and many villages and cities have been destroyed by the monster tide. As a last resort, the military and warriors can only establish shelters and fortresses everywhere to fight against monsters. Provide some shelter for surviving humans. However, these shelters may be attacked by herds of animals at any time. And Lin Ye is one of the elite warriors hired by the military from the mountain city to take turns stationed in shelters. Received, I will solve it. Lin Ye lightly tapped the earphone with her fingers and said in a low voice. Subsequently, everything returned to silence. 2 high-level beast soldiers. They came just right. Under Lin Ye's calm expression, his eyes began to gradually heat up. Kill more monsters in order to gain more attribute points and become a warrior-level warrior faster. Only by becoming a general or even a stronger warrior can one have the opportunity to earn more money and completely cure Yu's illness. With a low murmur, a young face suddenly appeared in Lin Ye's mind. Thinking of this, Lin Ye directly started the off-road vehicle. Stepping on the accelerator pedal all the way, the off-road vehicle raced forward frantically, leaving behind a long string of smoke and dust. Chapter 2. Bloody Killing. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Boom boom. The roaring engine roared from far to near. Quickly, 2 dazzling headlights shone out of the canyon like pillars of light. A military green off-road vehicle drove rapidly from the depths of the canyon. Squeezing. With a sudden brake, the tire engaged in an intimate and intense friction with the ground. After the off-road vehicle comes to a steady stop. Lin Ye grabbed the door edge and jumped out of the car. The national road under my feet has long been dilapidated. Looking around, on these national highways that stretch to the end of the wilderness, there are scattered and dilapidated cars, trucks, buses. The dense black bloodstains suddenly silently narrated the various cruelties of the past. Leaping onto a thick banyan tree, Lin Ye took out an infrared telescope and looked cautiously towards the distant wilderness. About 2,000 meters outside the canyon, a pig-like monster with a body size comparable to a heavy tank is forming a circle, as if eating. Lin Ye's gaze twitched slightly, as if he had noticed something unusual. Surrounded by these pig-like monsters is a black and red land soaked in blood. Under the moonlight, on the blood-stained ground, scattered with broken bones, wreckage, severed limbs, as well as shattered green military uniforms and unexploded hand grenades. Damn it. Seeing this scene, Lin Ye's eyes were torn apart and his throat couldn't help but growl. After a full meal, the group of pig-like monsters were slowly approaching the canyon with ease. Lin Ye has arrived at his destination and found a monster. But the soldiers have all sacrificed themselves. Gently flicking the earphones, Lin Ye's voice fell low. Command headquarters. After a brief silence, the voice of the command center came from the earphone end. Mr. Lin Ye, you are free to hunt monsters. All the monsters killed this time will be recorded as combat achievements. Remember to save your stamina and wait for subsequent tasks. No problem. Lin Ye nodded lightly and replied to the earphone. After 2 deep breaths, Lin Ye forcefully suppressed his anger in his heart. Leaning against a tree trunk, Lin Ye's indifferent and cold eyes gazed at the approaching pig monster, quietly pulling out his sword. Beyond the canyon. The pig monster is getting closer and closer. Just as these wild boar monsters were less than 20 meters away from Lin Ye. Lin Ye moved. Bang! With 1 foot on the ground, Lin Ye's figure shot out like an agile cheetah. On the crack-covered narrow road, Lin Ye seemed like an agile cheetah rushing onto an overturned bus, looking not far ahead. About 10 meters away, 17 one-horned wild boars, whose size is comparable to an elephant, slowly move forward in a fan-shaped formation. A pair of pig eyes full of bloody and vicious aura locked Lin Ye tightly. Lin Ye held the war knife in his right hand, his eyes burning as he looked at these attribute points, and a cruel smile curled up at the corner of his mouth. The unicorn wild boar has brown fur all over its body, and its mane stands upside down like steel spikes, capturing people's hearts and souls. The dark brown horns were more like sharp knives. Under the afterglow of the setting sun, the sharp cold light refracted from this single-pointed knife. The unicorn wild boar is just an appetizer, the real good guys are the 2 behind it. Lin Ye murmured softly, but his heart was incredibly clear. Looking around these unicorn wild boars, I looked towards the two pig-like monsters not far away, all red and covered in heavy armor. The bloodthirsty tank. As an old bird that has been wandering in the wilderness for over a year, Lin Ye can easily tell from their size that these are two bloodthirsty tanks of advanced beast soldiers. And they are also the most terrifying defensive creatures among these pig-like monsters. Similarly, the threat to Lin Ye is also the greatest. Ah! With a roar, two bloodthirsty tanks at the level of small leaders charged towards Lin Ye first. These two bloodthirsty tanks look rough and thick, incredibly heavy and sluggish, but their running speed is extremely fast. From afar, Lin Ye could feel a fierce wind rushing towards him. But he didn't step back, but narrowed his eyes slightly, silently watching the movements of the other unicorn wild boars, and quietly clenched his sword in his right hand. When two bloodthirsty tanks charged, several unicorn wild boars quickly retreated to make way for their two leaders. Continuing. They spread out in a fan-shaped pattern, trying to block off all the paths behind Lin Ye. Ha, that's it. Lin Ye's eyes were slightly cold. Bang! One of the bloodthirsty tanks was extremely fast, like a speeding tank, directly colliding with the bus under Lin Ye's body. Lin Ye stepped on the car door and suddenly dodged away. With a loud bang, the bus was shattered by a bloodthirsty tank, and the wheels rolled out in all directions. At the moment when Lin Ye landed, the attack of another bloodthirsty tank followed closely, without giving him any chance to catch his breath. The grown pig's beak emitted a foul breath, and its fangs flickered with hunting coldness. Who? Just as the sharp teeth of the bloodthirsty tank were only an inch away from his chest, he suddenly turned sideways at an incredible speed. This is not a simple sideways movement. Because the speed of Lin Ye's sideways movement would instantly shake anyone's eyes with his astonishing and terrifying explosive power. Sharp fangs almost brushed against Lin Ye's chest. Zhaoshuyuan.com. It was precisely at this moment. Lin Ye lifted his right hand and a matte black knife light flashed towards the neck of the bloodthirsty tank like lightning. Kang! Sparks splattered everywhere, and the sword was blocked by the thick scale armor at the neck. Shoo! At this brief pause, a dark shadow swept straight towards Lin Ye's head. Kang! Almost instinctively, Lin Ye swung his knife to block. The sword collided fiercely with the shadow, emitting a piercing sound of gold and iron interweaving. Amidst the splashing sparks, Lin Ye shook back the sneak attack shadow with a knife. Looking back, it turned out to be a tail that resembled an iron caltrop. Without any hesitation, Lin Ye reacted quickly. He exerted force under his feet and swung his knife again towards the neck of the bloodthirsty tank. Lin Ye's arm suddenly shook. A huge force erupted from within him instantly, passing down his arm to the sword. Double strength, explode. A low and deep shout echoed in Lin Yeshin Lake. The already sharp sword light, with its speed skyrocketing again, carries a terrifying aura. Snicker. With two consecutive cuts, the sharp edge fiercely tore open the thick scale armor and cut off half of the neck. Lin Ye's wrist flipped over, and the narrow battle knife stirred in his neck, making a continuous crisp sound of shattering. Drawing out his sword, Lin Yesher forcefully kicked the bloodthirsty tank's head with a heavy kick. Pang! After being kicked by Lin Ye, the massive pig monster stumbled and kept regressing. At the wound, some blood kept gushing out and a rain of blood fell out of thin air. Finally, the eyes of this advanced beast soldier gradually lost their color, and finally reluctantly closed their eyes and slowly collapsed. Chapter 2. Killing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Boom boom. The roaring engine roared from far to near. Quickly, two dazzling headlights shone out of the canyon like pillars of light. A military green off-road vehicle drove rapidly from the depths of the canyon. Squeezing. With a sudden brake, the tire engaged in an intimate and intense friction with the ground. After the off-road vehicle comes to a steady stop. Lin Ye grabbed the door edge and jumped out of the car. The national road under my feet has long been dilapidated. Looking around, on these national highways that stretch to the end of the wilderness, there are scattered and dilapidated cars, trucks, buses. The dense black bloodstains suddenly silently narrated the various cruelties of the past. Leaping onto a thick banyan tree, Lin Ye took out an infrared telescope and looked cautiously towards the distant wilderness. About 2,000 meters outside the canyon, a pig-like monster with a body size comparable to a heavy tank is forming a circle, as if eating. Lin Ye's gaze twitched slightly, as if he had noticed something unusual. Surrounded by these pig-like monsters is a black and red land soaked in blood. Under the moonlight, on the blood-stained ground, scattered with broken bones, wreckage, severed limbs, as well as shattered green military uniforms and unexploded hand grenades. Damn it. Seeing this scene, Lin Ye's eyes were torn apart and his throat couldn't help but growl. After a full meal, the group of pig-like monsters were slowly approaching the canyon with ease. Lin Ye has arrived at his destination and found a monster. But the soldiers have all sacrificed themselves. Gently flicking the earphones, Lin Ye's voice fell low. Command headquarters. After a brief silence, the voice of the command center came from the earphone end. Mr. Lin Ye, you are free to hunt monsters. All the monsters killed this time will be recorded as combat achievements. Remember to save your stamina and wait for subsequent tasks. No problem. Lin Ye nodded lightly and replied to the earphone. After 2 deep breaths, Lin Ye forcefully suppressed his anger in his heart. Leaning against a tree trunk, Lin Ye's indifferent and cold eyes gazed at the approaching pig monster, quietly pulling out his sword. Beyond the canyon, the pig monster is getting closer and closer. Just as these wild boar monsters were less than 20 meters away from Lin Ye. Lin Ye moved. Bang! With one foot on the ground, Lin Ye's figure shot out like an agile cheetah. On the crack-covered narrow road, Lin Ye seemed like an agile cheetah rushing onto an overturned bus, looking not far ahead. About 10 meters away, 17 one-horned wild boars, whose size is comparable to an elephant, slowly move forward in a fan-shaped formation. A pair of pig eyes full of bloody and vicious aura locked Lin Ye tightly. Lin Ye held the war knife in his right hand, his eyes burning as he looked at these attribute points, and a cruel smile curled up at the corner of his mouth. The unicorn wild boar has brown fur all over its body, and its mane stands upside down like steel spikes, capturing people's hearts and souls. The dark brown horns were more like sharp knives. Under the afterglow of the setting sun, the sharp cold light refracted from this single-pointed knife. The unicorn wild boar is just an appetizer, the real good guys are the 2 behind it. Lin Ye murmured softly, but his heart was incredibly clear. Looking around these unicorn wild boars, I looked towards the 2 pig-like monsters not far away, all red and covered in heavy armor. The bloodthirsty tank. As an old bird that has been wandering in the wilderness for over a year, Lin Ye can easily tell from their size that these are 2 bloodthirsty tanks of advanced beast soldiers. And they are also the most terrifying defensive creatures among these pig-like monsters. Similarly, the threat to Lin Ye is also the greatest. With a roar, 2 bloodthirsty tanks at the level of small leaders charged towards Lin Ye first. These 2 bloodthirsty tanks look rough and thick, incredibly heavy and sluggish, but their running speed is extremely fast. From afar, Lin Ye could feel a fierce wind rushing towards him. But he didn't step back, but narrowed his eyes slightly, silently watching the movements of the other unicorn wild boars, and quietly clenched his sword in his right hand. When 2 bloodthirsty tanks charged, several unicorn wild boars quickly retreated to make way for their 2 leaders. Continuing. They spread out in a fan-shaped pattern, trying to block off all the paths behind Lin Ye. That's it. Lin Ye's eyes were slightly cold. Bang! One of the bloodthirsty tanks was extremely fast, like a speeding tank, directly colliding with the bus under Lin Ye's body. Lin Ye stepped on the car door and suddenly dodged away. With a loud bang, the bus was shattered by a bloodthirsty tank, and the wheels rolled out in all directions. At the moment when Lin Ye landed, the attack of another bloodthirsty tank followed closely, without giving him any chance to catch his breath. The grown pig's beak emitted a foul breath, and its fangs flickered with hunting coldness. Who? Just as the sharp teeth of the bloodthirsty tank were only an inch away from his chest, he suddenly turned sideways at an incredible speed. This is not a simple sideways movement. Because the speed of Lin Ye's sideways movement would instantly shake anyone's eyes with his astonishing and terrifying explosive power. Sharp fangs almost brushed against Lin Ye's chest. Zhaoshuyuan.com. It was precisely at this moment. Lin Ye lifted his right hand and a matte black knife light flashed towards the neck of the bloodthirsty tank like lightning. Kang! Sparks splattered everywhere, and the sword was blocked by the thick scale armor at the neck. Shoo! At this brief pause, a dark shadow swept straight towards Lin Ye's head. Kang! Almost instinctively, Lin Ye swung his knife to block. The sword collided fiercely with the shadow, emitting a piercing sound of gold and iron interweaving. Amidst the splashing sparks, Lin Ye shook back the sneak attack shadow with a knife. Looking back, it turned out to be a tail that resembled an iron caltrop. Without any hesitation, Lin Ye reacted quickly. He exerted force under his feet and swung his knife again towards the neck of the bloodthirsty tank. Lin Ye's arms suddenly shook. A huge force erupted from within him instantly, passing down his arm to the sword. Double strength, explode. A low and deep shout echoed in Lin Yeshin Lake. The already sharp sword light, with its speed skyrocketing again, carries a terrifying aura. Snicker. With 2 consecutive cuts, the sharp edge fiercely tore open the thick scale armor and cut off half of the neck. Lin Ye's wrist flipped over, and the narrow battle knife stirred in his neck, making a continuous crisp sound of shattering. Drawing out his sword, Lin Yesher forcefully kicked the bloodthirsty tank's head with a heavy kick. Pang! After being kicked by Lin Ye, the massive pig monster stumbled and kept regressing. At the wound, some blood kept gushing out and a rain of blood fell out of thin air. Finally, the eyes of this advanced beast soldier gradually lost their color, and finally reluctantly closed their eyes and slowly collapsed. Chapter 3. Total Annihilation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The night is quiet, and unknown insects are chirping in this wilderness. The moon happened to penetrate into the clouds at this moment, and the entire wilderness suddenly became extremely dark. Suddenly, a gust of night wind blew up in the distance, and the originally faint smell of blood suddenly became strong, pungent and hot. Outside the canyon, Lin Ye quietly watched as the massive body of the bloodthirsty tank collapsed in despair. Fresh blood flowed from the wound, staining the surrounding wasteland with a blood-red hue, and his expression remained unchanged. Kill 1 advanced beast soldier and obtain 5 attribute points stepping on the sticky blood, listening to the electronic sound in my ear. Lin Ye stood next to the corpse of the wild boar monster, with no sign of relaxation in his expression. Because in his deep and bright black pupils, the body of the second wild boar bloodthirsty tank rapidly enlarged. An angry and fierce aura rushed towards us. At this moment, the bloodthirsty tank is like a locomotive, carrying a huge weight and heading towards Lin Ye, ready to crush him to pieces. However, surprisingly, Lin Ye didn't dodge or dodge, just did a simple action. I saw him kicking the ground with his right foot, curling up in the air like a spherical plate, and coincidentally, this second bloodthirsty tank pounced into the air. Roar! Almost unwilling, the bloodthirsty tank turned its pig head and charged towards Lin Ye again, with a pair of huge pig eyes filled with violent blood red. But it failed again. With his advanced body techniques, Lin Ye played this high-level beast soldier around. You should know that many generals and warriors have not reached the level of advanced body techniques. And Lin Ye has already taken an extremely solid step at the level of subtle body movements. On the other hand, the bloodthirsty tank is too uncomfortable. This wild boar monster has a huge size and a fast speed, and under the action of its huge charging force, it wants to stop for a longer time. Bang! With a crisp cracking sound, the bloodthirsty tank suddenly stepped on a small pit with its front hooves, causing its entire body to stumble. This fleeting opportunity for attack was keenly captured by Lin Ye. Shwa! Lin Ye's body was as light as cicada wings, and he quickly dodged and rushed behind this bloodthirsty tank. With a cold and stern expression on his face, he lifted his sword without hesitation and fiercely slashed at the back of the monster. Wow! The knife light suddenly appeared, and the sharp war knife fiercely scratched its buttocks, bringing up a string of splashing, foul-smelling blood. Wow! In an instant, another sharp stab was made, pointing straight at the huge, moist chrysanthemum surrounding unicorn wild boar. Ow! The crucial point was attacked, and the bloodthirsty tank instantly became angry, emitting a deep and painful roar. In a fit of rage, it immediately turned around and kicked its legs against the ground, jumping several meters high and rushing straight towards Lin Ye. Mount Tops. Seeing this, Lin Ye did not panic at all. The tense legs suddenly erupted, assisting in a forward and backward slide, barely scraping under the belly of the bloodthirsty tank. Wow! With a move to explore the sea and slay the dragon, Lin Ye's sword slashed through his soft abdomen, causing a terrifying wound. Fresh blood spurted out as a result. Sigh. 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 The softest abdomen on his body was cut open with a deep wound, and under the pain of eating, the bloodthirsty tank looked up and let out a mournful cry, its round eyes becoming increasingly red and violent. In this situation, the bloodthirsty tank still limped and charged towards Lin Ye. Ignoring the howling of the pig monster, Lin Ye only glanced faintly at its blood-flowing backyard, with a smile on his face. The advanced beast soldiers who have lost their intelligence no longer pose a threat to Lin Ye. Just as he passed by the bloodthirsty tank, Lin Ye grabbed the pig's tail with one hand and suddenly exerted force. With the help of a somersault, Lin Ye leaped up and rode onto the flat back of the bloodthirsty tank. With one hand tightly gripping the brown mane, Lin Ye grabbed the sword with the other and took advantage of the situation to strike. The target is undoubtedly the neck of this pig monster. Ping! A dull cutting sound that made one's teeth ache suddenly sounded, and a splash of blood oozed from the wound. Oh! Oh! Woo 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 woo! A huge pain struck, and the bloodthirsty tank let out a terrifying howl. Its massive body twisted and jumped wildly, trying to break free from Lin Ye's ride. Like a mad cow in a duel arena, desperate to shake off the knight on its back. However, Lin Ye still tightly gripped the pig's hair and swung his knife one after another. Under the moonlight, the sharp blade flickered with a hunting cold light. Step by step, constantly chopping towards the location of the bloodthirsty tank's neck wound, constantly expanding the wound. She. The blood-stained blade deeply embedded, causing a shocking wound, and Lin Ye's dark energy erupted accordingly. The terrifying power caused the bloodthirsty tank to break half of its neck, and a large amount of crimson blood spurted out. Seeing this, Lin Ye did not stop there, but instead the attack became increasingly fierce and fierce. Puff! The sound of the sharp blade cutting through the bones echoed one after another, making people unable to help but feel sore. In the end, Lin Ye cut through the thick and tough fur of the monster with his battle knife, and then sent the long sword into his body at lightning speed. The 3-foot blade was completely devoid, leaving only one handle outside, tightly held by Lin Ye. With a flick of his wrist, Lin Ye quickly stirred his sword and shattered all the internal organs of the monster. Boom! Without time to let out another mournful cry, the massive body of the bloodthirsty tank from zhaozuiyuan.com collapsed to the ground. Amidst the dust, a large amount of life quickly dissipated from its body, ignored the body still convulsing. Lin Ye's frosty eyes swept over the nearby herd of unicorn wild boars, and a smile of death spread across his lips. In the next moment, Lin Ye's figure rushed forward like lightning, and his sword pointed directly at the remaining unicorn wild boar, chopping grass and rooting it out. Wow! The narrow sword in Lin Ye's hand flickered with a hunting cold light, like the sickle of death, constantly harvesting the lives of these low-level monsters. Scream! The light of the knife is like electricity. Facing this group of monsters with relatively low strength, Lin Ye can deal fatal damage with every blow. Except for two medium-sized beast soldiers who were able to take on Lin Ye's two more swords, all other pig-like monsters were killed with one strike, without any chance given. Outside the canyon, a scene of one-sided slaughter suddenly appeared. Seemingly shocked by Lin Ye's slaughter, it triggered the instinctive fear of the surviving monsters, and they ran wildly towards the surroundings like a satyr. With a casual knife, Lin Ye cut off the head of a junior beast soldier and quickly scanned the surroundings. Upon seeing this scene, Lin Ye's figure flickered, chasing and killing one monster after another as they frantically fled. Every monster caught up by Lin Ye failed to survive for 2 seconds and died cleanly. Behind him, crimson blood fainted on the ground, and the blood in the air became more and more intense. Lin Ye made a clean and decisive move. Every time a sword is swung, it is always the key to a unicorn wild boar. In less than 5 minutes, with the combination of his sharp swordsmanship and agile body movements, he had already swept away the fleeing pig monsters. At this point, all the monsters in this area have been wiped out. Chapter 4. Add points. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After solving the herd here, Lin Ye took off his helmet, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and breathed a sigh of satisfaction. Lift your hand and gently wipe away the bloodstains on the blade of the war knife, then place it in the narrow knife box behind you and stand tall. From a distance, the whole person stands like a sculpture in the wilderness, letting the night breeze blow and remaining motionless. Lin Ye's face was sharp and angular, and his facial features were stunning. He breathed steadily and long, seemingly without any of the intense breathing after the war. A pair of eyes as cold as a cold star, Gu Jing remained calm, constantly paying attention to the movements around him. His tall figure appears particularly heroic and extraordinary under the moonlight. It's hard for anyone to imagine that the warrior who just killed a group of monsters fiercely is just a 17-year-old boy. At the same time, Lin Ye's mind echoed with cold electronic prompts: kill 2 advanced beast soldiers and obtain 10 attribute points, kill 4 intermediate beast soldiers and obtain 8 attribute points, kill 10 junior beast soldiers and obtain 10 attribute points, body method proficiency +5. Listening to the cold reminder sound in his mind, Lin Ye's mouth gradually curved. System, add all 28 attribute points to my power. Lin Ye confidently said, this is the first time he has added such a touch of dirt. Boom. As soon as the words fell, a cool airflow several times larger than before surged out of the void, penetrating Lin Ye's body up and down, enveloping him completely. As these breaths wandered around, Lin Ye clearly felt as if his whole body was soaking in a hot spring. Every pore relaxed, making him almost unable to resist snorting. Not only that, this airflow is silently refining and transforming the entire body. Including skin, muscles and bones, meridians at the same time, waves of strength were generated among Lin Ye's limbs, enriching his entire body. Lin Ye has a clear perception of the changes in his body. Almost involuntarily, he closed his eyes and quietly enjoyed the beautiful feeling. On the quiet wilderness, apart from the howling damp and hot night breeze and the scattered insect chirping, there was only the steady and even breathing and heartbeat of Lin Ye. The power within the body is rapidly increasing bit by bit. This upgrade lasted for a full 10 seconds before the cool aura dissipated without a trace. Lin Ye opened his eyes and looked at the information panel. Name: Lin Ye, attribute point 0, body method. Advanced level, proficiency 60/100, strength 108, +28, speed 75, response 75, spirit 75. The average value for adult male humans is 1, there has been a lot of improvement this time. Lin Ye felt the changes in his body carefully, and a deep expression of joy appeared on his face. Because every improvement meant he was further away from the level of a warrior. The same was achieved in this battle, not only did he improve his body skills slightly. The biggest change was that he was filled with even greater strength from top to bottom. In a rough perception, Lin Ye realized that she had gained about 20% more strength than before. If other warriors knew about the changes in Lin Ye, they would surely be jealous to the point where their eyes would turn red. The improvement of ordinary martial artists can only be achieved gradually through the grinding between life and death, coupled with continuous hard work and a lot of nourishing energy. How could someone like Lin Ye have such a significant increase in strength with the addition of attribute points? If facing these two high-level beast soldiers again, it wouldn't be so troublesome. Lin Ye glanced at the two huge corpses that were gradually becoming cold, and a smile curved his lips. In this era of crisis and monsters everywhere, strength is everything. To survive in this world, my advanced warrior's strength is far from enough. Lin Ye was pondering rapidly, and suddenly a cluster of stronger flames was rapidly expanding in his heart. Suddenly, Lin Ye thought of something. He swept his gaze around him, looking at the messy and small monster lying on the ground, not even considered a beast soldier, and gently shook his head. In the future, it seems that only by killing monsters at or above the level of beast soldiers can we continue to gain attribute points. With a low sigh, Lin Ye no longer hesitated. Then, Lin Ye looked at the bloody land before, and his figure had already arrived in a blink of an eye. The brown bloodstains and broken bone dregs were particularly dazzling. Lin Ye pulled out a military shovel and dug a pit 1 meter long and 1 meter wide, and the same depth. His movements were rapid, burying the broken bones and relics into it in a few strokes. A small grave soon appeared on the wilderness. Casually lighting a lotus king, Lin Ye squatted down and gently inserted it in front of the new tomb. Although I don't know your names, I know you are heroes, I have taken note. Your revenge, Lin Ye has avenged it. Facing the tomb, Lin Ye bowed deeply. The night breeze blew by, and the scattered lights in front of the tomb flickered on this dark land. Like the future of humanity at this moment. In this era of monsters ravaging disasters, every warrior who fights against them to the death deserves respect. Whether they live or die, they are all heroes of humanity. Standing up straight, Lin Ye gazed into the dim wilderness of the stars, his gaze flickering. In this world full of monsters and crises, death is always within reach. At the beginning of his journey, he was also a member of the human refugee army. He went to Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com and witnessed countless people being killed by monsters. He also experienced the panic and fear of being chased by monsters firsthand. Until he was rescued by a warrior, he picked up his sword and fought fiercely against the monster, gradually becoming stronger. Even though I am now a warrior, I cannot predict when I will die in battle. The only thing he can do is to do everything he can to become stronger, and then become stronger. This way, he can protect everything he wants to cherish. After taking a deep glance at the new cemetery in the wilderness, Lin Ye began to get busy. He ran to the bodies of two bloodthirsty tanks and skillfully dissected them. 15 minutes later, important materials from the bodies of the two monsters were collected by Lin Ye, and he began to dissect the remains of other beast soldiers. In this era of resource scarcity and numerous crises, the flesh, fur, and bones of monsters are all important materials. After finishing all of this, Lin Ye ran into the canyon and drove over the previously prepared off-road vehicle. Dong dong dong. After throwing the flesh and blood of several beast soldiers and pig-like monsters into the car bucket, Lin Ye was thinking of continuing to explore around and see if he could kill more monsters to improve. Suddenly, another reminder from the command center came through the earphones. Mr. Lin Ye, 15 kilometers away from shelter 0457, we have discovered the trail of another group of wolf-like monsters. Please go ahead and clean up. Upon hearing this, Lin Ye looked up and glanced ahead. In the deep darkness, only the howling damp and hot night breeze passes by. No problem. Lin Ye replied directly. For monsters, of course, the more, the better. He doesn't refuse anyone who comes. 3 times, 5 times, 2 times, throw the monster materials onto the car, and Lin Ye continues to drive to the designated location. Chapter 5. Crushing. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The moonlight is dim. At this time, it is about 13 kilometers away from Shelter 057. On a small hill, Lin Ye stopped and stood, following the instructions from the command center, searching for monsters everywhere. Accompanied by the damp and hot night breeze, there were faint howls of wolves in the distance. With excellent eyesight, Lin Ye noticed that in the distance towards his southwest, there were faint shadows slowly approaching. He picked up the prepared infrared telescope and looked up. Within the line of sight, a group of gray giant wolves the size of horses are approaching towards the shelter, with a population of about 40. Judging by their body size, there are 3 high-level beast soldiers and 17 or 18 weaker mid to low-level beast soldiers. The remaining ones are all some non-mainstream monsters. Unfortunately, there is no silver moon wolf, otherwise we could have earned more. Lin Ye sighed in a low voice, quickly dispelling unrealistic thoughts in her mind. You should know that even among wolf monsters, the silver moon giant wolf belongs to a pyramid-like existence. Known for its cunning, and solitary behavior, it is referred to as a hunter by warriors since the war between humans and monsters. The weakest silver moon wolves discovered are all of the higher beast level. Although the price of silver moon wolf is high, it is not something that ordinary warriors can touch. As his gaze scanned, Lin Ye made a new discovery. Not only in the southwest direction, but also in the north and east, there are traces of some wolf-like monsters. The total number of monsters in 3 directions is about 70. If they come together, it won't be very easy to handle. Lin Ye frowned slightly, then his gaze fell on the southwest with the highest number of monsters. A thought suddenly flashed through my mind, and my face changed slightly. There are traces of monsters here, but what about other places? With a beep, he said in a deep voice, "Command, I have discovered around 70 wolf-like monsters here now, please immediately investigate other directions of the shelter." I believe there are other wolf-like monsters lurking around. Understood, Mr. Lin Ye, all you need to do is guard your place. Mr. Lin Ye, what you have found are only some lone wolf-like monsters. Iron Dragon troops are building defenses in other directions of the shelter. Please rest assured and pay attention to safety. If you are unable to resist, retreat first. Done. Lin Ye turned off his earphones and his gaze towards the wolf pack became increasingly cold. Miso. The sword was unsheathed, and Lin Ye quietly rushed down the mountain slope at a steady pace. He needs to first deal with the wolf-like monster in the southwest direction to avoid the danger of being surrounded by 3 sides. A black shadow ran in the wilderness, getting closer and closer to the wolf pack in that direction. 3,000 meters. 2,000 meters. 1,000 meters. 800 meters. As Lin Ye approached 500 meters, he suddenly slowed down his pace. Wolf-like monsters have an excellent sense of smell and vision, able to detect enemies at great distances and launch attacks. 300 meters away, upon sensing Lin Ye, the ferocious and tyrannical nature of a wolf-like monster was instantly ignited. Roar. A group of gray giant wolves roared up to the sky, moving their limbs and rushing towards Lin Ye. Lin Ye pulled out his double swords and shook them with his back. In this way, it can unleash stronger power and lethality. Ow! Amidst the raging howls, the 3 black and massive high-level beast soldiers rushed towards Lin Ye at high speed like heavy armor. 3 pairs of sharp wolf claws shimmering with a cold and piercing light under the moonlight. Lin Ye, who rushed at full speed, did not dodge or avoid, approaching 3 high-level beast soldier level grey wolves head-on. At a close distance, Lin Ye could clearly see their ferocious heads and 3 pairs of blood-red eyes. At this moment, the 3 grey wolves also locked their eyes on Lin Ye, and 2 of them opened their bloodthirsty jaws and bit him. Another high-level beast soldier led the other giant wolves and quietly dispersed to surround Lin Ye, then waited for an opportunity to launch an attack. Lin Ye was slightly shorter, almost close to the ground in an iron bridge posture, avoiding the bites of 2 giant wolves. At the same time, he took action. Scream! 2 reflections of the cold sword light were flicked and chopped towards the necks of the 2 giant wolves by Lin Ye like his arms and fingers. Puzzy! Puzzy! In Lin Ye's hand, 2 sharp battle knives wrapped in unstoppable power, directly chopped off half of the head of the giant wolf in front of him. Puff! Stinky blood spurted out. With a successful strike, Lin Ye suddenly exerted force on his waist and charged towards one of the giant grey wolves like lightning. His sword flashed with lightning, piercing through his tough fur and piercing through his heart. With his current strength, even the bloodthirsty tank with stronger defense than the grey wolf cannot resist Lin Ye's 3 strikes. Watching this high-level beast soldier convulsing and falling to the ground, Lin Ye followed suit and killed the other heavily injured grey wolf to the ground. In the midst of lightning and fire, only one of the 3 high-level beast soldiers remained. Slaying 2 giant wolves, Lin Ye kept moving and instantly turned around to deal with the high-level beast soldier behind him. With the same extremely sharp attack, Lin Ye quickly dealt with the leading wolf. You should know that every high-level beast soldier is not to be underestimated by ordinary warriors. Those who can stably kill monsters of the same level have impressive combat power among warriors. And those who can easily kill high-level beast soldiers are definitely among the top warriors and warriors. After solving the 3 high-level beast soldiers, the remaining big bad wolf is not enough to be afraid of. Lin Ye had no intention of letting them go. After all, the beast soldiers at this head were all his attribute points. Killing begins. Accompanied by cries of pain and sorrow, giant wolves fell one after another behind Lin Ye. Despite the siege of over 30 giant wolves, it turned into a solo killing performance by Lin Ye. Zhaozuiyuan.com. In the wilderness, a ghostly figure erupted at full speed, chasing and killing the grey giant wolf in all directions. Every wolf monster caught up with is also a crucial middle ground, and before it can roar, it has become a corpse. Kill 3 advanced beast soldiers and obtain 12 attribute points. Kill 7 intermediate beast soldiers and obtain 7 attribute points. Kill 10 low-level beast soldiers and obtain 1 attribute point, body method proficiency +5. Accompanied by a series of cold electronic speakers, Lin Ye stood on the bloody wasteland with a fleeting sense of clarity in his eyes. As expected, with the improvement of one's own strength, the rewards brought by slaying beast-level monsters are not as great as before, and they will gradually decrease until nothing is gained. Therefore, Lin Ye wants to continue obtaining a large number of attribute points to enhance his strength. In addition to killing more beast soldiers, we can only turn our targets toward stronger beast-level monsters. The night breeze gently brushed away the bloody smell in the air. Looking back at the location of the tomb just now, Lin Ye's growing desire quickly spread like spring breeze and wildfire in her heart. Taking a long breath, Lin Ye looked up at the dim starry sky, and a relieved smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Slaying this group of big bad wolves at least provided him with 20 attribute points and 5 body method proficiency points. I am still somewhat unsatisfied. I really shouldn't be so ambitious, humans. After a low self-deprecating remark, Lin Ye opened the information interface and frowned. The feeling of power enhancement is really satisfying. I really like this feeling. System, give me some extra. Chapter 6. Beast Tide. You are listening at novelfull.audio. System, give me some extra points. The sound fell, and Lin Ye's body suddenly changed. Still the cool aura that appeared out of thin air, enveloping the whole body. Transformed from attribute points, surging out of the void, intercepted by his entire body, refining Lin Ye's flesh and blood bones. At the same time, Lin Ye suddenly felt a tingling sensation like a wound healing, as if being covered in the warm winter sun and itching all over his body. Similar to before, about 10 seconds later, the improvement abruptly came to an end. At this time, Lin Ye's information interface was also updated at the same time. Name: Lin Ye, attribute point 0, body method. Advanced level, proficiency 70/100, strength 128, plus 20, speed 75, response 75, spirit 75. The average value for adult male humans is 1, very good. Having truly felt the power of growth, Lin Ye was very satisfied in his heart. The increasing strength means that he can fight monsters more easily and obtain attribute points more easily. Next, it's time to harvest my loot. Looking at the scattered corpses, Lin Ye first chose to decompose the 3 high-level beast soldiers. Roar! Ow! Just as the dissection of the first monster began, the howls of wolves around began to ring from far to near. It's delivered to the door. Lin Ye's gaze swept around, and a hint of mistiness spread across his mouth. Wow! With the war knife out of the box, Lin Ye began another slaughter. Seemingly stimulated by the smell of blood, the group of grey wolf monsters surrounding them were exceptionally fierce and violent. However, they suffered a crushing defeat in the face of Lin Ye's renewed strength. Quickly, these more than 30 monsters were killed by Lin Ye's sharp attack, transforming into 13 attribute points. And their remains have also become the spoils of war for Lin Ye. System, continue to give me some strength. The familiar tingling sensation reappeared, and Lin Ye stretched comfortably, feeling an increase in strength. These 2 additions have significantly improved his strength compared to before. Now, in terms of power, he is already equivalent to himself 1.3 times before. System, call up my interface. With Lin Ye's command, the interface came to mind with a swoosh sound. Name: Lin Ye, attribute point 0, body method. Advanced level, proficiency 70/100, power 141, plus 13, speed 75, response 75, spirit 75. The average value for adult male humans is 1. Quickly, Lin Ye had already packed up the important materials on the medium and high-level beast-level grey wolf and looked at the scattered low-level beast soldiers with reluctance, ready to leave. At this moment, a sudden mutation occurs. A whistling wind piercing through the sky caught his attention. Looking up. In the night not far away, a bomb carrying a white tail flame fell from the sky. That's DF1. Lin Ye looked at the string of fireworks lingering in the night sky, his pupils slightly furrowed. The last time I saw this type of annihilation bomb was during a small-scale animal boom a year ago. At that time, Lin Ye was only a junior warrior who followed a senior warrior and learned various combat experiences on the battlefield. It was also in that battle that the senior, with a determined heart to die, exchanged one arm for a monster at the level of an elementary beast general, seriously injured and dying. Boom. Lin Ye fell into a daze as he watched the flames, and waves of explosions came from afar, pulling his thoughts back to reality. Although this belongs to the DF series of ultra-small missiles, its power is still terrifying and its coverage is very wide, which is conducive to attacking smaller-scale animal swarms. Just need one. Even with Lin Ye's current physical condition, he will be shattered to pieces. Bang, bang, bang. Flames burst forth, and smoke and gunpowder erupted everywhere. From such a distance, Lin Ye could feel the earth tremble slightly. Retrieving his gaze, Lin Ye's gaze trembled slightly. In that area full of flames, there should be troops and animal tide encountering it. Lin Ye called the command center. May I ask if there are any troops or monsters fighting in the 0023 area? Without further ado, Lin Ye directly dialed the channel of the command center. Yes, the independent regiment under the Iron Dragon army encountered a small-scale beast tide. If Mr. Lin has time, he can participate on his own. I understand. Lin Ye nodded, with a new idea already in her heart. With the approval of the command center, Lin Ye's eyes flashed with a hint of sharpness. If there is a small-scale beast tide, wouldn't it be a good opportunity for him to harvest monsters and improve their attributes? As soon as the thought fell, Lin Ye didn't hesitate at all. He picked up his knife box and returned to the car, driving his off-road vehicle full of materials towards the distant battlefield at full speed. Dong dong dong. The earth shakes and dust rises everywhere. In the darkness, thousands of wolf-like monsters gathered from the jungle and hills, charging fearlessly towards the steel defense line built by the independent regiment. Boom! 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 Missiles carrying white smoke tails fell into a surging herd of beasts, with deafening explosions and sparks and smoke filling the battlefield. Surrounded by huge craters, twisted and twisted, lay the remains of monsters, with a burnt smell emanating from the indescribable charred object. Accompanied by the precise strike of the first wave of DF1. The charge of the beast tide was briefly dispersed, and the remaining monsters quickly gathered, but still rushed forward crazily. Fire! At a high position, find the commander of Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com to issue an attack order. Dong dong dong. Da da da. In an instant, the entire defensive position was like a awakened war monster, consisting of powerful machine guns, howitzers, rapid-fire guns. A blazing barrage of heavy firepower, harvesting fierce and fearless wolf monsters. Ah! Roar! Ah! Ah! The speed of the herd charge is fast, but the casualties are greater. Just the death line intertwined with missiles and heavy firepower causes huge casualties to the herds. Clusters of low-level monsters melted at a distance of 2,000 to 3,000 meters from the defense line. Smoke and gunpowder erupted, and the flickering flames were particularly glaring in the dark night. Surrounding the position, towering watchtowers that had already been built were illuminated by massive searchlights sweeping across the wilderness, revealing all the trajectories of these monsters. Under the bright light, there were also high-level beast soldiers quietly hiding in the herd. They crouched down and advanced, suddenly leaping out as they approached the defensive position, accelerating and running wildly quickly. A few escaped fish broke through the firepower blockade and advanced rapidly towards the nearby defense line. This scene was witnessed by observers and staff officers from all over the position. Messages quickly gathered in the hands of the commander, waiting for his orders. Notify the snipers to use armor-piercing shells to name these advanced beast soldiers. If they cannot be killed, they must also lose some combat effectiveness. Arrange DF1, pay special attention to the mid to high-level monster generals in the beast tide, to avoid their participation in battle causing a huge impact on our defense line. As for the monsters at the level of primary beasts generals, let them come over and deal with them. Chapter 7. Blood Battle. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. 2 o'clock in the morning. In the middle of the night, 8 thick searchlights illuminated a vast wilderness. A brilliant stream of steel flowed like the Milky Way upside down, pouring wildly towards the herd of beasts. The sound of explosions, gunshots, roars, and howls intertwined into a grand symphony that continued on this wilderness. The highest point of the position. On the already built watchtower, reconnaissance soldiers were all holding infrared telescopes, fully focused on observing the battlefield situation and reporting in real time. Let the snipers prepare specially made alloy armor-piercing shells, with a focus on taking care of high-level beast soldiers and elementary beast generals. A middle-aged man with an officer-like appearance frowned slightly as he watched the surging tide of beasts. He put down his telescope and ordered the soldiers next to him in an orderly manner. Despite facing thousands of beast surges, the leader of the independent regiment remained calm. Just the fleeting flicker of fire in his deep eyes revealed that he was not as calm as he appeared at the moment. This small-scale animal tide can last for up to 3 to 4 waves and will disperse on its own. Remember, let the 45 soldiers and warriors in the regiment guard the weak areas of the cooperative defense position, and do not let monsters break through the defense line and penetrate deep into the position. Obey me. Looking at the giant monsters that looked like heavy tanks, the middle-aged officer's face was filled with a solemn expression. In the year since the appearance of monsters, humans have engaged in countless fierce battles with their herds, losing more than winning. Therefore, the military has rich combat experience in charging herds of beasts and can quickly adopt response strategies. Facing a constantly increasing and rapidly improving group of monsters remains a huge problem. Although heavy firepower can eliminate some low-level monsters. But when faced with a more powerful and rapidly increasing group of monsters, they also appear pale and powerless. Not to mention those monsters with even stronger levels, heavy weapons are like scraping sand to them, posing no threat to their lives. Only elite warriors can fight against advanced monsters. However, the number of elite warriors in the army is very small. Except for the main force of the 7 secret forces of the Great Xia, the number of warriors that other troops can possess is very few. The searchlights alternated over the wilderness in front of them, and thousands of grey wolf monsters kept protruding from the distant forest, charging towards the shining Milky Way like fire line. I don't know when the whole camp will be filled with warriors, how good that would be. With a deep sigh in his heart, the middle-aged officer looked up and looked ahead. The defensive fortification at the forefront of the position, all warriors are on standby, ready for the moment when monsters break through. And this time, it only took a short 2 minutes. Ow! With the mass deaths of ordinary monsters, the first high-level beast soldier level red-eyed wolf finally broke through the firepower blockade and roared towards the defense line. At this moment, the 3 closest warriors looked at each other and simultaneously pressed on the handle of the knife. The war sword slowly unsheathed, and the icy cold light flowed on the blade. Then the 3 of them rushed out at the same time. The battle between warriors and monsters is imminent. On the battlefield filled with gunpowder, the roar of countless monsters intertwined into a loud attacking melody. Many monsters rushed desperately towards the front line, wanting to break through human defenses and carry out massive slaughter. However, after leaving behind one corpse, only a very small number of monsters survived and arrived at the front of the battlefield. However, when the first monster charged onto the defensive position, it was greeted by the sharp swords of 3 intermediate warriors. A great war is on the verge of breaking out. 2 human warriors leapt forward, arched from left to right, and used tactics to restrain this high beast soldier. There is no way, even high-level warriors of the same level have to avoid their sharpness when facing high-level beast soldiers charging head-on. Let alone ordinary intermediate warriors, so these 2 intermediate warriors can only attack together. As for the remaining person, they took the opportunity to find the weakness of this monster and killed it. At the same time, in 2 weak defensive areas not far away, a high-level beast soldier also broke into the position of the human warrior. Pang! Suddenly, a deep and powerful voice sounded. Puff! One of the giant wolf monsters had just stepped onto the battlefield and its body stiffened and it fell backwards in a daze. The warrior who was about to come forward and fight fiercely was slightly stunned. When they saw the fist-sized hole on the giant wolf's head, they immediately understood. It turned out to be an alloy armor-piercing bullet piercing through its sturdy head, killing it with a single blow. Before they could breathe a sigh of relief, the advanced beast soldiers in another area had already begun to wreak havoc. Due to the lack of warrior defense here, the nearest soldier rushed forward as a last resort. The 4 Iron Dragon soldiers glanced at each other, all seeing the determination in their eyes. Then they all stepped forward together, intending to stop and block the rampaging wild boar monster. Even though they possessed the power of 1 to 10 and a considerable level of tacit cooperation. But when facing the raging pig monster, the three warriors were instantly arched away like praying mantis like a chariot. The remaining soldier, pierced by its long fangs through his combat suit, emerged from his chest, losing his vitality in an instant. Dong! Slashing the bloody Iron Dragon soldier fiercely, this huge grey wolf stared fiercely at the three soldiers who had been knocked away, roaring and rushing forward. Quickly! Quickly dodge! A soldier who was witnessing this scene had his eyes wide open and shouted loudly at Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. However, his reminder was too late. Click and wipe. With just a few crisp noises, the claws of this grey wolf had already torn apart the body of one of the warriors, as easy as cutting tofu with a blade. Puzzy. Blood spurted out thinly, mixed with fragmented internal organs scattered all over. Ordinary soldiers have no resistance when facing higher beast soldiers. The only thing they can do is to use their lives to delay monsters and buy time for warriors. In less than 5 breaths, 4 soldiers died one after another under the attack of this advanced beast soldier. Click. This head, with blood streaming deep between its teeth, is incredibly ferocious. Some ordinary soldiers around were furious when they saw this scene and rushed towards the heavenly spirit cap, desperately trying to deal with this high-level beast soldier. Bang bang bang. Sparks splattered on the fur, and ordinary bullets couldn't break through the steel-like fur of high-level beast soldiers, causing them to be ejected. Swallowing the body of one warrior in 3 bites, this terrifying giant wolf, which was comparable in size to a rhinoceros, lifted another warrior and charged towards the soldiers who were shooting. Upon seeing this, the surrounding soldiers immediately gathered together and fired at it in unison. However, the gap between advanced beast soldiers and ordinary soldiers is far from something that can be compensated for by their numbers. The soldiers rushing forward were quickly defeated, either smashed to pieces or trampled to death. Even worse, he was directly bitten to death by the giant wolf monster blocking his waist. Quickly, this position was stained red with blood and covered in broken limbs. P.S. On the first day of the month, please clear your tickets and investments to avoid expiration. Chapter 8. Help. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The confrontation between humans and monsters has always been limited to life and death. Even facing the ferocious wolf like a monster, none of these warriors stepped back. But with his own flesh and blood, he fearlessly pounced on the impossible enemy in less than 2 minutes. About 10 Iron Dragon soldiers who had undergone rigorous training sacrificed themselves on the spot. They are all elite soldiers on the battlefield, but they are just stronger in front of monsters. Oh. Oh. After killing the enemy, the monster raised its huge and ugly head, roared up in the sky, and its crimson eyes scanned the surroundings as if searching for new prey. Watching the giant wolf monster with red eyes charging forward again, continuing to tear apart its position. Not far away, several Iron Dragon soldiers glanced at each other and then rushed over, trying to delay the support of other warriors. Lin Ye, who arrived in time, rushed into the battlefield at an astonishing speed and blocked the insane high-level beast soldier. Meeting on a narrow road, Lin Ye greets this giant wolf with a sharp sword. Woo! Looking at the sudden appearance of Lin Ye, this grey giant wolf spewed out an extremely foul breath from its mouth, and a pair of blood-red pupils locked onto him. Because on the former, it smelled the scent of its own kind, unusually strong. At a close distance, Lin Ye could almost see the sharp hairs that stood up on the grey giant wolf's body. This is not his first time facing high-level beast soldiers, and Lin Ye appeared incredibly calm. The 2 consecutive power increases greatly increased his combat power. The high-level beast soldiers that used to require a lot of effort to solve are no longer considered troublesome in his eyes. 1 person and 1 pig looked at each other like this. Lin Ye's expression was indifferent as he quickly scanned the surroundings, searching for other high-level beast soldiers who could break through the defensive position. So Lin Ye took action. First strike. With a sudden burst of speed, the grey giant wolf instinctively paused, then strode its strong and powerful limbs to attack Lin Ye. Within this brief moment of daze, Lin Ye's body suddenly rushed forward like lightning, and his sword in his hand flashed like lightning, piercing through its thick fur. Roar! Yi suffered such trauma that the grey giant wolf let out a terrifying howl. However, Lin Ye flipped over and jumped over the massive body of the grey giant wolf. In mid-air, Lin Ye exploded with a loud bang. The sword slashed down. A sharp blade light flickered towards the giant wolf's neck. Bang! Lin Ye pulled out another sword and lightning struck at the same spot. My previous experience in fighting wolf monsters allowed Lin Ye to understand their weaknesses. Their necks and bellies. Pang! A dull collision sound sounded, and terrifying wounds appeared on the neck of the grey giant wolf. Puff! The foul-smelling blood rushed out in a rush. Faced with the stumbling grey giant wolf, Lin Ye wielded his sword again, piercing through the tough wolf skin and piercing his heart fiercely. Turning his wrist, he mercilessly shattered the monster's heart. Pulling out his sword, Lin Ye watched as the massive body of the wolf-like monster in front of him collapsed to the ground, constantly convulsing. In the midst of lightning and fire, a high-level beast soldier swiftly killed Lin Ye's subordinates. Kill one high-level beast soldier and obtain 4 attribute points at the same moment, a cold reminder sounded in Lin Ye's mind. He glanced at the area stained with the blood of the soldiers and covered with broken limbs, his eyes becoming increasingly cold and sharp, as if a fierce beast was slowly awakening. At this point, he no longer cares about the number of attribute points and can help one more person. Lin Ye's frosty eyes looked towards the nearby battlefield, frowning slightly. There, the 3 warriors were clearly defeated when facing a high-level beast soldier. And around them, several slightly smaller monsters are watching closely, ready to launch attacks at any time. Danger lurks everywhere. Seeing this scene, Lin Ye no longer hesitated, his figure flashed, and rushed over to relieve the siege. At this moment, the 3 warriors present a triangle, surrounding the high beast core to prevent it from continuing to ravage. Every person has varying degrees of trauma. Especially the middle-aged warrior led by him, as a senior warrior, he bears most of the anger and attack of the grey wolf, and his injuries are quite serious. This time, I will still be the main attacker. You should find opportunities to attack this beast's eyes, belly, and neck. Those beasts' defense is weaker. The middle-aged soldier said in a low voice, enduring the rolling blood in his chest. The 2 warriors nodded at the same time. They knew very well in their hearts that even high-level warriors of the same level would inevitably fall into a disadvantage when facing grey giant wolves with high strength and defense. Especially in places like positional defense, where there is a hard encounter, even at the same level, there is no advantage at all. We can only fight to the death. Boom! The middle-aged warrior's whole body was full of vitality, with his veins bulging and his momentum rising step by step. Just as he thought he was going to have an intimate collision with this monster, his eyes suddenly lit up. Boom! Kicking away the heavy grey giant wolf, Lin Ye ignored the slight numbness on his right leg and instead leaned up with a knife. Scream! The light of the sword exploded in the air, searching for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. This narrow and long sword, which is only 3 feet long, is as agile as Lin Ye's body. Every wave leaves terrifying wounds on this grey giant wolf. Woo-woo. The advanced beast soldier felt as if his whole body was cut with countless knives and couldn't help but let out a mournful scream. When facing Lin Ye, the only action it can do is to be incompetent, furious, and howl. Lin Ye is increasingly entering a state. Like fingers and arms, Lin Ye and his sword were like one entity. Every knife can take away a lot of its vitality. Ow! The grey giant wolf, heavily suppressed, let out an unwilling roar of grief and anger, and was then cut through the neck by Lin Ye with a sharp slash. This person is too powerful. The middle-aged warrior looked at the young man who had rushed into the battlefield, with an incredible shock in his eyes. From beginning to end, it was all Lin Ye's performance. Even the grey giant wolf of the advanced beast soldiers couldn't resist. In front of this man, it was like a wooden stake to be attacked. Even if there was a counterattack, he calmly avoided it. Boom! As the grey giant wolf fell to the ground, a cold electronic sound echoed in Lin Ye's mind simultaneously. Kill one high-level beast soldier and obtain 4 attribute points after killing the raging high-level beast soldier. Lin Ye nodded slightly at the 3 warriors and said, "You can still fight." The 3 warriors, covered in blood stains, nodded heavily at the same time and said, "Not bad. That's good." After speaking, Lin Ye stopped talking nonsense and continued to swim and support in front of the position. While killing the monster that entered the battlefield, he also saved the Iron Dragon soldiers and warriors. Chapter 9. Slaying Beast Generals, Part 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The dazzling flames rose up into the sky, illuminating half of the wilderness into daylight. Boom boom boom. In the tide of beasts in front of the position, several earth-shattering explosions exploded, mercilessly melting one wolf-like monster after another. The arrival of these DF parcels completely submerged a large wave of beasts in the sea of fire, howling everywhere and causing countless deaths and injuries. At the same time, this also brought valuable rest time to the position where the Battle Dragon Regiment was located. Taking advantage of the fact that the rear herd of animals had not yet gathered, military vehicles arrived at the rear of the position one by one and began to distribute ammunition and supplies. Snipers targeted clearance. All warriors 331 teams, quickly eliminate the monsters on the battlefield. Li Yunfei gave Lin Ye a deep glance and continued to command, "As for this young warrior, just let him play freely." The sound fell, and the warriors on the defensive front began to quickly gather in groups of 3 or 2. The heavily injured warriors supported each other and resisted the monsters in a special formation. No one retreated due to their injuries, and their eyes sparkled with resilience and indomitability. This is the warrior. In the war between humans and monsters, no warrior in Xia would compromise due to monsters, let alone become a deserter, which is meaningless. These warriors have enjoyed all the status, fame, money, and other benefits bestowed upon them by humans, so what they cherish the most is the honor bestowed upon them by the world, as well as the bottom line of their hearts. When the warriors of the Dragon Quest quickly gathered to form a battle formation, Lin Ye was also slaughtering the surrounding monsters on a large scale here. Puff! Lin Ye pulled out his sword from the neck of a beast soldier-level giant wolf, and then with a powerful punch, he slammed his companion who was rushing behind it. 7 orifices bleeding, directly unconscious. At the forefront of the position, we continue to search for other beast soldiers, and the number of kills is also increasing. The scene that appeared on the field shook the soldiers and warriors of the Dragon Warrior group fiercely. As is well known, the explosive power of wolf-like monsters is extremely terrifying, coupled with their fierce and ruthless attack methods, often causing martial artists to complain incessantly. However, now they are as weak as sheep under Lin Ye's command, with no resistance at all. At this moment, everyone's gaze towards Lin Ye was filled with disbelief. Is he really a senior warrior? Surprisingly, so many high-level beast soldiers appeared effortless in an instant. Not far away, a high-level warrior looked at Lin Ye in shock and murmured to himself. Next to him, his companion nodded hesitantly and said, "Yes, the emblem on his arm is still a senior warrior. How does it look like it's even worse than a warrior?" On the battlefield, some warriors with breathing opportunities formed groups of 3 or 2 and whispered to each other, "This person, isn't it a warrior who the commander found from somewhere? I don't think there's a big difference, even if you're not a general, you have the strength of a general." A middle-aged warrior punched and killed the monster, saying, "You must be a warrior, otherwise dealing with high-level beast soldiers wouldn't be so easy." After killing several high-level beast soldiers in succession, Lin Ye ignored the sound of prompts in his mind and his sharp gaze searched the battlefield. Within a 500-meter radius, a quarter of the beast-level giant wolves that broke through the position were destroyed by him. The remaining 3 quarters were all taken by the dragon warriors. The entire battlefield is like a meat grinder, constantly crushing the herd of beasts into pieces. Only by being on site can one deeply appreciate the terrifying and bloody nature of dealing with monsters. The battle is gradually coming to an end. Faced with almost unlimited firepower support from the rear, the elimination of this herd of beasts is only a matter of time. Quickly, a shadow of illness crossed through numerous lines of fire and appeared in his sight. From a distance, this beast soldier's body size is more than 2 or 3 times larger than the one just now. The interwoven firepower network hit it, only splattering sparks and not causing more damage. It can be seen that its defense is not uniform. It looks like a primary beast general. Lin Ye's eyes suddenly turned cold, but his heart was filled with some surprises. System, add all attribute points to the power. Lin Ye murmured silently in her heart. In the next moment, a powerful force appeared out of thin air, filling Lin Ye's body with endless energy. After adding points, Lin Ye felt an unprecedented strength. System, call up my information interface. Lin Ye's mind twitched as lines of information came to mind. Name: Lin Ye, attribute point 0, body method. Advanced level, proficiency 70/100, power 165, plus 24, speed 75, response 75, spirit 75. The average value for adult male humans is 1, very good. The surging power also brought Lin Ye immense confidence. He looked at the rampaging grey giant wolf, with a burning sense of war in his eyes. Since everything is ready, let me test the strength of this beast general. Hoo. Accompanied by the howling strong wind, Lin Ye's eyes became increasingly sharp. The narrow and long blood-dripping sword flickered with a chilly gleam under the bright searchlight, pointing straight at that elementary beast general. War. With a roar, Lin Ye's body was as light as a feather, and a few dodged and quickly approached towards the front. Attention everyone, avoid that warrior when shooting. A correspondent quickly notified the major firepower points. Shwa. The dragon warriors received orders to move their guns and leave the battlefield to Lin Ye and this elementary beast general. That's it. One person and one wolf charged towards each other, getting closer and closer to each other. Then, their 2 bodies touched each other. Shwa. The sound of body collision did not sound, and Lin Ye's body flashed out from the side of the grey giant wolf, while a ferocious bloodstain appeared on the wolf's body. With a successful strike, Lin Ye did not pause, but instead dodged and turned back, attacking the giant wolf twice in a row like a recipe. The war knife cut through the tough wolf skin, leaving 3 terrifying scars about an inch wide. Looking for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com, blood quickly seeped out of the wound, roar. Suddenly being attacked a few times, this elementary beast, a level grey wolf, let out a deep sob, and a pair of huge blood pupils stared fixedly at Lin Ye. As the leader of the wolf monster that traverses this area, it feels a great threat on Lin Ye. The blood-red long tongue lightly licked the wound, and the grey giant wolf's counterattack immediately arrived, ignoring the 3 wounds with flowing blood, launching an attack on Lin Ye. Dong. Dust splattered everywhere, and 4 thick and powerful thighs quickly ran forward, biting towards Lin Ye. As long as Lin Ye is touched by this elementary beast, the sudden speed of the giant wolf monster makes him almost hit. He quickly retreats and then rolls forward with difficulty, narrowly avoiding the impact of the grey wolf. Body method proficiency +10. But he couldn't bear to breathe for a moment, and the next attack from the giant wolf came again, boom. It was another perilous and difficult evasion, and Lin Ye rolled and dodged the attack of the giant wolf in a position almost level with the ground. Body method proficiency +5. Listening to the electronic synthesizer ringing in his mind, Lin Ye had no joy at all. He had a serious expression on his face, and when he looked back, his heart suddenly thumped. The place where it was originally established has fallen into a big pit under the unmatched claws of a wolf. Hush! Seeing this scene, Lin Ye couldn't help but take a deep breath. Monsters at the level of beast generals are truly terrifying. P.S. Thank you all for your monthly tickets, recommended tickets, and collected comments. The author would greatly appreciate it, but we have to work hard to code it.